Hey, what's up? It's Alex. Today I'd like to talk about the connected readings in a passage I wrote about a trip that I took to a forest on an island. Let's take a look. I was quickly and completely bewitched by the incredible beauty of the forests. We say was very quickly here because it's the beginning of the sentence, and the stress is on quickly bewitched. I was quickly and completely bewitched by the incredible beauty of the forests. And completely. In this whole passage, you'll see that and loses its d at the end of the word. And completely bewitched by the incredible. The incredible, we kind of add a y between the and incredible. The incredible beauty of the forests. The air was perfectly crisp. The air, we add a y here as well. The air was perfectly crisp. Now, perfectly has a t in it when it's written out, and if you're speaking very carefully, you would pronounce the t. Perfectly. But in rapid speech, that turns into perfectly. There's no t. Perfectly. The air was perfectly crisp. The grass was astonishingly green. Was astonishingly. Connect those two words together. And when I, again, that d disappears. And when I stopped walking, I could just hear trees and wind. I could just, that d at the end of could connects to the j at the beginning of just. Could just. You don't need to separate them, so you don't need to say could just. I could just hear. That sounds a little bit too artificial. It's better to say, I could just hear trees and wind. And again, we drop the d at the end of and wind. The main path branched off into smaller paths. Branched off. Connect the d to the ah in off. Branched off. Into smaller paths. Into, not into, but into smaller paths. And I saw dozens of huge orb weavers in their webs. In their webs. In there. When I say the n in, it connects to the, so my tongue stays between my teeth. In their webs. Evidence that the larger part of the tourists had stopped tramping about for the season. Here the T at the end of that turns into a glottal stop, and we reduce the vowel in that. It turns into that the larger part of the tourists, the T in part turns into a tap. Part of the, and the F in of disappears. Part of the tourists, the larger part of the tourists, had stopped tramping about. Had stopped. Had gets reduced in its vowel, and the D connects to the S in stopped. Had stopped tramping. Stop tramping. That D and T connect together. Stop tramping about for the season. Now the T in about turns into a glottal stop. About for the season. It doesn't disappear. We don't say about for the season. We say about for the season. About for the season. And for the becomes very small and very short and connects together. For the season. I saw very few people at all except when I was near the beaches. At all. We say those very quickly. At all. Very few people at all. People at all. Except when that T at the end of except disappears. We just keep the P. Except when I was near the beaches. When I. Near the beaches. Here I'm saying the very quickly and kind of connecting it to the b in beaches. The beaches. Near the beaches. And surely. Now that D disappears, and we connect the N in and to S in surely. And surely they were only a fraction of those who come at the height of summer. At the. So here at turns into a glottal stop. At the height of summer. At the height of summer. I was quickly and completely bewitched by the incredible beauty of the forests. The air was perfectly crisp, the grass was astonishingly green, and when I stopped walking I could just hear trees and wind. The main path branched off into smaller paths, and I saw dozens of huge orb weavers in their webs, evidence that the larger part of the tourists had stopped tramping about for the season. I saw very few people at all except when I was near the beaches, and surely they were only a fraction of those who come at the height of summer.